Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the vote Chori controversy, a political firestorm that's raised some really tough questions in India. We're going to break down the explosive claims, the official pushback, and what it all means for one of the world's biggest democracies. So, first things first, what are we even talking about here? The whole controversy revolves around this Hindi phrase, vote Chori. It literally means vote theft, and it's the term used when someone alleges that the entire voting process has been rigged or is fraudulent. And right there, you have a question that cuts to the very heart of any democracy. What happens when the very foundation of the system, the election itself, is publicly accused of being broken? It's a huge deal. Okay, let's get into it. To really understand this, we have to start with the accusation itself, the spark that lit this entire fire. This all blew up when opposition leader Rahul Gandhi made a really dramatic public claim. He didn't just hint at problems. No. He called the alleged voter manipulation an atom bomb, and, even more importantly, said he had open and shut proof. And these weren't just vague claims. He pointed to specific issues, especially in places like Karnataka. We're talking thousands of duplicate voters, totally fake addresses, invalid photos being used for IDs, and even misuse of official election forms. So really specific allegations. And to put a number on it, the claim was that over 1 lakh, that's more than 100,000 entries on the voter rolls were compromised. So you can see the scale of this alleged problem was massive. All right, so you've got this huge accusation. How does the body in charge of running the elections, the Election Commission of India, or ECI, respond to something like that? Well, you can probably guess what happened next. It was an immediate and forceful clash. The accusation of vote Chori was met with an equally strong denial. The commission didn't just disagree, it called the claims baseless and irresponsible. But they didn't just say, no, that's not true. They went way further. The ECI framed the whole thing as an attack on the country's democracy itself, calling the allegations an insult to the Constitution. That really raised the stakes. So instead of getting into a political war of words, the commission did something very specific. They shifted the battleground from politics to law. They basically said, okay, you have proof, put it in a sworn affidavit. Give us the evidence. Then, and only then, can we launch a real legal investigation. But this demand for a formal affidavit, well, it didn't solve anything. In fact, it just created this huge standoff between the accuser and the institution. And this is where a lot of people started scratching their heads, right? The question became pretty obvious. If you say you have open and shut proof, why wouldn't you just submit it through the official channels? So what was his answer? Well, his argument was all about his role as a member of parliament. He basically said, look, I've already taken an oath to the Constitution. Anything I say in public is already in effect under oath. A new piece of paper is just redundant. And that's the deadlock right there. You have two totally different ways of looking at the exact same situation. On one side, it's a matter of principle. His word as an MP should be enough. But on the other side, critics saw it as a political move to sidestep the need to show actual hard evidence that could hold up in court. As you can imagine, this whole thing split people right down the middle. You had two very clear, very passionate camps form almost overnight. And they saw this in completely opposite ways. For supporters, this was a vital fight for transparency, for making sure people could trust the elections. But for critics, it was just empty political noise, all talk, with no real proof to back it up. So for his supporters, the argument was pretty clear. These accusations are so serious that they absolutely have to be investigated, no matter what. They argued that to protect democracy, the responsibility should be on the Election Commission to prove things are fair, not just on the person raising the alarm. But the critics, they were looking at this from a totally different, more legalistic angle. They said that by not filing an affidavit, it actually makes the whole claim look weaker, like there isn't enough solid evidence. From their perspective, it turned a serious allegation into what looks like just political theater. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Beyond all the political back and forth, why does this one fight matter so much? What's really at stake here? Well, the first thing you have to get is how the system is designed to work. Parliament is where you debate big ideas about election reform in general. But when it comes to a specific accusation of fraud, that's not their job. That power belongs to the Election Commission and the courts, period.
When you break it all down, this whole affair puts three huge things on the line. First, public trust. The system just falls apart if people stop believing their vote matters. Second, the ECI's credibility. It has to be seen as a neutral referee. And third, the responsibility of leaders. Do they need to back up explosive claims with proof to protect these very institutions?
And that really brings us to the core issue, doesn't it? This whole episode shows us that for a democracy to work, an election doesn't just have to be fair. It has to be trusted as fair by the people. The perception is just as powerful as the reality. So we're left with this really big, important question for India and really for any democracy today. In a world full of deep political divides and so much information and misinformation flying around, how do you make sure your elections aren't just fair, but that everyone believes they're fair? That's the challenge this controversy puts right in front of us.